So, professional responsibilities is the last domain that I'll talk about. I purposely waited until the last minute to do this one. Um, it's kind of hard to reflect on how this one works throughout the residency program, but I'm gonna try. Um, through both residencies, I wasn't necessarily um, expected to go to professional development or staff meetings, let alone any union meetings, especially in a year like this. Um, and so I know that, for instance, in both schools, PD was at the same time that I had class. So I never really got the chance to experience what PD was like on a consistent basis in a public school setting. Um, but in Dodge, during the second residency, I did have the opportunity to go through their teacher development program, um, meaning, the cluster meetings that started out as TAP, but is progressed into these kind of cluster things. That was an interesting experience. I mean, this year, I did find out that TAP will be, not TAP, Dodge will be spearheading um, creating a framework for how clusters are going to work in all AUSL schools. So it was really interesting to be a part of that process and to actually make a contribution to that process as a resident. Um, I know, though, that there were some things that I found to be really intriguing about that whole process, though. Thinking about us having to be on time and present. I have grown accustomed to using my laptop during meetings. That definitely was not okay there. And even making me think about that. It did even make me um, kind of rethink how I use my laptop in UTEP classes, where I wouldn't use it as often, or when I did pull it out, um, for the most part, it was for utility and not just to surf the net in order to get my mind off of what was being talked about. Um, but I am, taking the time to actually do something that's on task. Um, when I think about it, I mean, there are some things that I am definitely thinking about as far as professional responsibility. So most of this conversation is really going to be about next year. There's the planning in me. Just thinking about, first of all, just making it through the year. I definitely don't want to be a first year teacher that quits. And so I know that it helps to show professionalism by actually completing the job I was signed on to do. Um, and I know that that's going to be kind of hard sometimes. I know this past year, the more difficult times came when I was emotionally distraught for whatever reason. And then it became hard to, for instance, keep up the wardrobe, even, the fact that I haven't shaved my hair. Now I can attest it to just not meeting with children. But um, then it was really a symptom of my depression. And when I get really stressed at home, um, then teaching becomes really bothersome and tiring in different ways than normal. So I know that definitely part of my professional responsibility is actually to manage my personal life um, in an effective and productive way. So for me, that means, making sure that I'm maintaining my faith in God and making sure that I am only doing what I am expected to do, nothing more. And that's not because I'm lazy, but because I have to understand that my responsibilities, the things that I am expected to do, I must do well. And to take on extra jobs, um, especially when not asked to, is only going to do me in, especially in the first year. Um, so just definitely thinking about that. I am thinking about my journaling. I need to be very consistent in my journaling. This morning I was toying around with the idea of kind of having snapshots of my teaching every so often and reflecting on that snapshot. First, I was thinking one a day, but that feels a bit overwhelming, to be frank. Once a week, maybe. Maybe a morning meeting here, a lesson there, you know, doing those kinds of things and going from there. But definitely some kind of consistent capturing of my practice and reflecting on it in a very systematic way to help to chart my growth over time. It's something that I need to work on. That wasn't something that I was good at these past 2 years. Journaling is not something I was very good at. Reflecting is something I'm very strong at. And I'm okay with saying that I'm strong at it, but it was all in here and not on paper, right? Not in a way that can really be documented and assessed over time to really see, like, am I growing or am I not growing? And so, you know, that can be problematic. You know, I know that, I mean, Ed does not expect me to take on any after school opportunities this year. He really just wants me to focus on teaching. I do appreciate that. That helps me to understand what's expected. Um, this is a weird domain. I have to admit, I mean, once again, this is a weird domain. I mean, I really don't know what to say here. Um, but I know that, you know, my goal next year is definitely to just be a teacher of character. And really that starts with being a man of character, making sure that I am on time, making sure that I don't leave early. And don't leave early just means, you know, the kids, you know, have just left when I leave, like making that an everyday practice. But I will be having very consistent schedule at school. Of course, there are times when I have to be there later or be there earlier. But, you know, this year, my CI, Miss Willis, was really helpful and helping me to come up with a very consistent schedule, 7:30 to 4, 7:30 to 4, no more, no less. Every once in a while, we went to like 4:30, um, and every once in a while, I would come in at 7. And that was only 2 or 3 times out of all those months, and so I definitely intend to keep that next year. I think that that helps me to deal with my personal life in a way that's meaningful and productive, because as it has been. Um, Exhibited throughout my UTEP experience, I will not sacrifice my personal life for any of this. I know that that's not in the domain, but for me, that's extremely important. And my personal life is sacrificed for teaching. Well, I think it is in the professional. Well, anyway, that's not important. I won't sacrifice it for UTEP. I won't sacrifice it for teaching. I won't sacrifice. Um, my personal life is the thing that will sustain me. It's the thing that will save me or damn me. It's the thing that will. Um, it's the thing that I am defined by. I am not defined by UTEP. I am not defined by teaching. I'm defined by who I am as a man. I'm defined by who I am as a husband, and who I will be as a father. God willing, the last two things happen very soon. Um, so, you know, just thinking about these things, I have very clear goals that I have for next year, not too many. And they're not really big rocks, right? The only big rock I think for next year really is just making it to the end of the year healthily, and um, a system of journaling that is productive and that is consistent. So those are like the two major things that I'm thinking about for next year. Outside of that, I really don't know. I feel like I've said that like 3 times. Um, but there you have it, professional responsibilities. My last uh, journal reflection for transition to teaching class.